The Great Emu War, Australia's strangest military campaign, a war unlike any other. In 1932, amidst the global turmoil of the Great Depression, Australia found itself facing an unexpected enemy, one that was not a foreign army, but an army of birds. The Great Emu War remains one of the strangest military operations in history, where the Australian government mobilized soldiers with machine guns to battle tens of thousands of emus in the western plains of the country. What followed was a bizarre and humiliating failure, as the birds outmaneuvered the military, leading to one of the most unusual defeats in warfare. The problem: an emu invasion. The origins of the conflict trace back to Western Australia's wheat farmers. After World War I, many Australian veterans were given farmland to settle in rural areas. However, by the early 1930s, these farmers were struggling due to droughts and economic collapse from the Great Depression. To make matters worse, around 20,000 emus, large, flightless birds native to Australia, invaded the farmlands in search of food and water. The emus found the soft wheat fields perfect for feeding, destroying crops and leaving farmers in ruin. The situation quickly spiraled out of control, and desperate farmers turned to the Australian government for help. The government's military response. In response to the farmers' pleas, the Australian government approved a military operation. They sent soldiers armed with Lewis machine guns, a relic from World War I, to eliminate the emus. The goal was simple: kill enough emus to protect the crops and reduce the population. The operation was led by Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery. He and his men set out into the outback, confident that their machine guns would make quick work of the birds. The battle begins and fails. On November 2, 1932, the first attempt was made. The soldiers opened fire on a group of about 50 emus, but the birds quickly scattered, running in all directions. Their speed and unpredictable movements made them nearly impossible to hit. The machine gunners, expecting an easy victory, were shocked at how resilient and fast the emus were. A few days later, the soldiers set up an ambush near a dam, waiting for a large group of emus to approach. As the birds gathered, the soldiers unleashed a hail of bullets. However, the machine gun jammed, allowing most of the emus to escape unharmed. In another desperate attempt, Major Meredith mounted a machine gun on the back of a truck, hoping to chase down the emus and shoot them while moving. This too ended in disaster. The rough terrain made it impossible to aim, and the truck eventually crashed before a single emu was hit. The outcome: victory for the emus. After weeks of failure, the government called off the campaign, admitting defeat. By the end of the war, only about 1,000 emus had been killed, while the rest continued to thrive. The soldiers had wasted thousands of rounds of ammunition, yet the birds had outmaneuvered, outlasted, and outsmarted the military. One Australian observer famously joked that the emus had won the war, saying, "The emus have proven that they are far too clever for us." Despite the embarrassing failure, the emu problem remained, and the government eventually switched to a bounty system, paying hunters for each emu they killed, instead of sending in the army. Legacy of the Great Emu War. The Great Emu War has since become a legendary tale of military incompetence, often told with humor. It highlights not only the challenges of Australia's harsh environment, but also how underestimating nature can lead to unexpected consequences. While the campaign failed, it did not lead to major consequences for the government, and today, emus remain an iconic part of Australia's wildlife. The Great Emu War is now a global meme, symbolizing bizarre military failures and the unexpected resilience of nature. Final thoughts. Was this the most unusual war in history? Perhaps. But one thing is certain: the emus of Australia remain undefeated to this day.